There's supposedly we have this feeling or understanding or conspiracy speculation that entertainment, television, they actually tell you what's about to happen, or they tell you what's really going on in the world, because they have information and they like to put subtleties out there to get people talking for, as the kids say, clout. And they put stuff in there just to be like, hey guys, we have access to things and we know shit. So if that is the case, right? For the flat earthers out there, people that believe in the flat earth, when we have a soap opera called As the World Flips, because the world is flat, you can't turn something that's flat. You can only flip it. And if we flip it, everybody's going down. But no, everything is literally flipping. Have you ever flipped a table? Think of the earth just flipping. Like we're really just out there being like a mattress in the world, in the atmosphere, wherever you want to call it. I think there's a reason why planets are round. Look, I'm not a astronomicist. That's not the word. An astronomist. I don't know if that's wherever the fuck Neil deGrasse Tyson is. Wherever the fuck these people that, I like my space. Don't get me wrong. I just like literal space. But if the world was flat, I think we have a hard time of actually fitting this many things on this planet. But there's a reason why all the planets are circular. Because if we were flat, I honestly, like the oxygen density, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. But yeah, the Simpsons have foreshadowed there's compilation videos of the Simpsons having an episode 4 years prior, throwing a little foreshadowing or a thing out there, like, in Springfield, there's going to be a bombing in this and this, or they show a little picture of the towers, or they show like an old episode where they showed that Trump was going to be president. And literally like going down an escalator, and then there was literally like, after he got elected, it was almost like identical. He was like at an airport or at a mall, like a gathering, a speaking engagement, and all the paparazzi was around, and the reflection of what was happening in The Simpsons was happening in real life. So people speculate there's time travel. So yeah, but if that's the case, we wouldn't call the soap opera As the World Turns. It would be As the World Flips. So just by that alone, I just debunked the flat earth theory. Flatter than the opening of this podcast. And flatter than 30% of girls' chests these days. Yeah, it's kind of weird when your titties start getting bigger than most girls. Which you would think, well, the extra enhancements and steroids in our chicken, you think it would have helped them. But I guess it just helps us. But yeah, welcome to episode 216 of the Off and Beat podcast with Clint Nelson. I'm your host, Clint Nelson. Don't forget to like, follow, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Most important, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to suck some titties. Whether the earth is rolled or flat, that will always be happening. I feel like there are more titties being sucked on average than babies being born. I think they say a baby is born every 3 seconds. I'm like, well, there's being a titty sucked every millisecond in the world out there. Whether it's in one way, whether it's another way, or all the ways. That's how I like my Five Guys burger. All the way, baby. Yeah. But yeah, we're recording this at 5:25 a.m. Eastern on August 28th, 2023. Just for the archives and to kill the time. And today's sponsors is quote unquote H2O. and some coffee replacer with this thing called Rise Up tea. I gotta be honest. Like, I've been a anti-hot tea guy. I like to spill some tea, preferably on my crotch, until you find out you got some holes in the gooch area. It's weird when you find after you wash your clothes. It's a terrible feeling. When you find holes in things you didn't know, you're like, oh, let me stick it in there. Now that's an addiction. Not all these like, oh, I got an addiction to my phone. It's like, yeah, I have an addiction when I see a hole. I play whack-a-mole. I start bam, boom, boom on it. 2 or 3 fingers. It don't matter. Clockwise or counter. Hey. But yeah, I'm such a fool. You can tell I'm recording this at 5 in the morning. I'll tell you that much. But yeah. No, it's weird when you do laundry, and it's like every time you do laundry, you find something different. Like, you find like a sock that has a hole in the heel. You find some jeans that have a hole in the sack. You find some shirts that have been, warned. And you've been warned. That's literally what a t-shirt feels. You've been warned. It's like, yeah, I know. I've been warned a lot. A t-shirt is basically like a prostitute for your body. Now that, like, think about it. A t-shirt has a higher body count than your body count. Think about that. Yeah. Think about it. You have probably worn a shirt more than you have had relations with your partner. Just imagine if, like, we just threw people in the washers and be like, hey, you know what? You came out brand new. I wore it for 7 years, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? It's time to throw you out. Just imagine we just treated people like shirts. Well, some people treat people worse than shirts. Some, that's the crazy thing. It's like, you could, like, literally, it costs more to buy, like, a purse, and it is to buy, like, shirts, than there is to buy human beings out there, which selling human beings is illegal, but we know it happens. Like, a baby, you go to these child trafficking things, and they sell babies for, like, as low as, like, $800. It's, like, the most craziest fucking thing. But then it's like, hey, buy this. You could buy 2 t-shirts from Express at the mall for $300 fucking dollars. It's like, yeah, once I wear it out and it stretches out, and after 8 months when it gets some wrinkles, and then to rip it up, and then it's like, but you know what? Aren't you glad you don't have a baby? And it's like, I guess so. For now. Wink, wink. Foreshadowing, like TV, remember? Maybe this podcast is basically just cable television. I'm telling you what's really happening. I'm just doing it in an entertaining way. Dude, where's my car? It's probably at a junkyard because someone went under it and so your catalytic converter, and you had to get it towed, and you called an illegal tow service that is part of the same sting operation of the people that stole your vehicle. And now they are pawning and junking your car, scrapping it for a good old 1,800 buckaroos when you still owe $5,000 on it. Welcome to Metro Atlanta. Yeah. But, honestly, I've been thinking about moving. Making moves. That whole thing, like, you got to have a shitload of money to move. It's like, you don't have to have money to move. You just gotta have money to, when you move, go into a place to move. Because I see plenty of people that are moving around, That's the thing. Like, if I was homeless, like, if you're homeless, are you better staying in a 3-mile radius that you're comfortable in? Or are you better off actually just, like, after a month, taking a bus to this place, and then taking a bus like 80 miles this direction, like, seeing, like, it's like sightseeing. Like, homeless people have the most freedom And I'm not saying be homeless, I actually have I pray for them, even though I don't pray. So it's weird to say you pray for someone you never pray, because if I pray for someone specifically, they're probably looking at me like, oh, what? Well, why are you praying for us if you don't believe in praying? And actually, I was thinking earlier, like, that's probably what they feel when people offer them, like, homeless free housing. They're like, oh, so you've been just watching us struggle for years and years, and now, because it's good for your campaign, for your presidential campaign, or your government, or your Senate, or you're running for a fucking third seat in your fucking Henry County, all of a sudden you give a fuck about where the homeless encampments are going to be. And that's kind of the issue. It's like, if you put a bunch of people who've been on the streets, who have been living in a survival mindset where they feel the world has said, fuck you, we don't care about you. The world has been against them. They are treated as such. They have a hard time getting jobs because they don't have active transportation. Realistically, they don't have, I think honestly the biggest thing is probably just hygiene. Like, and I don't mean to say homeless people smell, but it's like, because you know what? People that have homes smell. So yeah, homeless people probably do smell when you don't have access to clean yourself. So that probably makes it a little hard to like find a job. There's probably like a hygienic issue, which honestly, a lot of people, like if I was homeless, like my go-to path, all I would do is just have a gym membership, shower, and, fall asleep in the tanning bed area. Well, don't turn the tanning bed on because, watch out for the radiation out here. Besides, tanning beds at these gyms, like most of these, like, local 24-hour gyms, they never fucking work. Yeah, because you know what? It's a lot of maintenance. It costs a lot of fucking money to keep up with that shit. But yeah, no, if I was homeless and, like, I'm not talking about, like, someone that's, like, just, homeless, but, they're normal persons, just circumstance. I'm talking about, like, a real homeless person. That sounds weird because if you're homeless, you're homeless. But, you know what I'm talking. I'm not talking about the person that's just kind of like living in their car for a couple weeks because, they got kicked out of their parents' house or whatever. I'm talking about like a homeless person where they're walking around with a tent on their back. They're playing drums to the side. They're doing some Dragon Ball Z movements at 4 p.m. right by a light. And if I was homeless, like, and I like lived that life for years and years, and all of a sudden they're telling me like, hey, you know what? We got this free apartment housing. You all can come in here and just live here and just stay out, right? I would be like, I don't think putting a bunch of people in a different environment who have been living in the certain environment you're just putting everyone, they're going to do the same things, but now it's just inside. So it's like all the stuff that they're doing out for survival and the way of living, it's like, it's not really going to change anything. All it is just literally the whole idea of that stuff like they do on Skid Row, and the whole idea of that is literally because they just want to keep their cities to be attractive tourist options. That's all it's for. Which is actually a very popular thing now on the internet, which is to go to poor parts and just start taping and talking about how poor the area is while all the people there are like sleeping on the street. Like, yeah, everyone here is just kind of, they had no father. They have all these drug issues. They, they never graduated past 4th grade. Like, they all came from abusive homes. It's like, and you're just sitting there minding your business, watching, playing your little Etch-a-Sketch, just trying to get through the day. And, do what you do. And some asswipe with like 4 million subscribers on YouTube is like, hey, I got this nice camera and I'm about to make, about a couple $100,000 off this video when it gets 8 million views over the next like 7 months. he could use that money for it. But no, he's like, yeah, you know what? It's like almost like, what's the difference? It's kind of an uncomfortable relationship with these channels where they use a constant situation, like people that go to the poorest parts, and they're using other people's downfall in life, or they're using other people's situation as a way to capitalize. But they would be the first ones when you're talking about politics and stuff, talking about, oh, the government, they just didn't care about these people. They just they took their homes and they just came over, rezoned everything for benefits of all this shit. And it's like, okay, but you're going out of your way to the Appalachian. You're going around out of your way to Skid Row, to these poor parts where all this homelessness, where all like poverty is at all-time high and people are just broke and they have no resources. It's a dead-end way of life. They have no way out. Like, this is just their existence. And you go there with your nice Range Rover and your $8,000 camera setup with your cameraman named Jeff. And you just go there and you're just like interviewing people. And it's not that they're not nice to the people, but it's kind of weird when you think about what's taking place. It's like, what is like, it's like, okay, you're making people aware of it, and that's nice, and that's cool. It's fun to, it's cool to watch, but it's also kind of a weird feeling after you watch, and you're just like, oh. And then after the video is over, he's like, thanks for the content, guys. But best of luck, Try not to get kidnapped from Sasquatch out here, because that'll be a Bigfoot in your booty hole, pipe Roddy. Yeah. But I don't know. It's a weird thing, I don't want to name the channels because I watch them, and it's nice. It's nice to watch the interviews, and it's nice for people to go to these parts and really explore and tell a story and show. I think that's good. But they even admitted in some ways, it's like, yeah, it's like, you can't fix the problem. All you can do is show it. It's like, okay. But if you're going to show the problem, don't capitalize, monetize, and make money off of other people's lowest parts of their life or other people's unfortunate reality. I don't know. And that's the thing. It's like, they're not being intentionally bad, but they're also, it's kind of a lack of, I guess, awareness of what's really happening. I don't know. Anyways, enough of the sad shit. So I was actually, it's funny. We be having, sometimes like in a work environment, right? In the break room at work. Whatever's on TV, that's what we talk about. So we were watching boxing. And then somehow, it started turning because, it's like weird when you're watching boxing in UFC, we were actually talking about how, hey, the one guy was like, some people, man, some people are given brains and they can't throw hands. And some people are given hands and they have no brains. That's just the way God made it. He's like, if you ain't got to do this, you don't do this. And if you have the option to not do this, but you can do it, still don't do it, right? He wasn't like anti-boxing, but it was definitely like, it's like it takes a real special breed of someone to literally just fight in a ring and get hit nonstop and in the head and all that shit. And it's like, well, what the interesting part, because, I brought up like, because there was a wrestler that died recently. I forgot what his name, but it's like weird because boxing, it's obvious it's bad for you. Like, it's legitimate getting hit in the head, even though you're wearing a glove. It's almost worse than the argument's been made, because when you're getting hit with a glove, like, it's painful. But it's enough to cause damage, but you can still function. So you just keep getting hit over and over. And the wear and tear of that for 10, 15, 20 years is when you see people like barely functioning. Like they typically have mental issues. They typically they have cognitive memory loss. They have deformed bodies. Like they're just in so much pain from what was caused. And the thing is, like, WWE, talking about wrestling, entertainment. It's like, it's so fake. And it is fake. Like, they're not hitting each other. Like, they're not punching each other. They're not actually landing shots. But all the theatrical stuff of jumping off the ropes and clashing into each other midair and having to land a certain way. Like, it is one big gymnastics shows. But instead of falling on some big ass cushions and foam, you're falling on a flat canvas. And sometimes on wooden floors and, the slams and all that shit. Jumping off a cage onto an announcer table. Like, I'm surprised, like, honestly, no one has actually, well, I'm pretty sure it's happened, but people have gotten seriously hurt and had to be legitimately carted off. But I don't think anyone's ever died, like, in the ring in the WWE. But, like, there's countless of people that have so much brain damage and neck damage and back damage and so much pain they kill themselves. Chris Benoit literally killed his kids and his wife, if I remember the story correctly, and then killed himself. Eddie Guerrero died from, I think, a heart attack or some shit, or maybe some more extreme. Like, so many wrestlers. You go down the list. Like, if you're in it for more than 10 years, like, you were done. Like, Hulk Hogan and The Rock, they made such a mark in such a short amount of time. Then they got in the movies and they said they got at the perfect time. But the argument is like, actually, when you think about like WWE might actually be worse for your body than like boxing. Because one, at least I don't know how, because I don't really watch this stuff, but their tours are insane. Like, they will tour, like, do, like, 200. It's like, they used to have these crazy things, like, early, mid-2000s, where they were doing, like, 200 events a year type of shit, right? And I'm just like, looking back, like, Jesus Christ. But I'll tell you what is absurd. Like, here's the thing about, like, WWE and WWF. When you're younger, that shit is so fucking awesome to watch. It's so cool. And then, like, you don't watch it, and then you get older, and I don't know, maybe it's just like they do a lot more outlandish shit. I was literally watching a clip the other day. It was like The Miz was in the booth calling it, and this one wrestler came over there. It was two wrestlers. One dude grabbed the guy's head, slammed on the announcer table. The one announcer, The Miz, got up and grabbed his hand, slammed it down. The dude propped back like, oh my God, I'm in a daze. He pointed to the crowd like, one more, boom, slam, quote unquote, and I say slam, but you know what I mean. Slammed his head again, one more. Does it, he literally does this 8 or 9, 10 times. The guy hits the thing, comes up, stands up, what's up, oh my God. And The Miz is like, do it again, do it again. And I'm just looking like, I honestly think, even at 8 years old, I'll be looking at this shit like, this shit is fucking stupid. And then I'm trying to think like, you know what? There's a lot of shit, there's a lot of wrestling that was stupid. But I feel like it's so absurd now because it's just not as watched. But, that's the thing. Wrestling is one of those, quote unquote, they call it fanboy sports. And it's one of those things where it's like, there'll be grown men that are like really attached and like live that like Star Wars. It's not like an anime vibe, but it's a very, the Comic-Con vibes. Like, people that are in the comic books are probably in the wrestling. Like, that type of attachment. That's like a childish, quote unquote, people call it childish or a very youthful attachment, but it could kind of get like too real for them. So they go to these Comic-Cons, spend endless amount of money tour the world, they'll go to everything, meet whoever, and like they're very passionate about it. Like, it's one of those sports. But, you know, I don't know. I think, honestly, like, from a longevity and life standpoint, you might be better off being an MMA fighter or a boxer. That's the moral of that. But, yeah. That's some good room temperature, supposed to be hot tea. As the kids say, why drop it like it's hot when it's not? Don't get an attitude. But yeah. Yeah. You know, I think I've kind of talked about this before, but there's a really fascination with natty or nots. Like, natural, people are natural, people are not natural. I don't want to get like too deep in like people that are natural, like, because like I've said before, who really cares? At the end of the day, it's like people that are not natural can still give good advice and actually give really good information about what it takes to grow compared to a natural. It's like, oh, well, I'm staying the same way because I'm just natural. It's like, you also naturally are just a weak ass little bitch in how you train. Well, if I was on all this trend, it's like, if you were on trend, you would just have more acne. And yeah, you would have growth in your traps and shit, but you would not even maximize what being on that shit would do. That's a reality for a lot of people. But, you know, it begs to differ, right? Does being on steroids, HGH, testosterone, does being on that immediately discredit you from being a respected human being who makes good choices, right? And here's what I mean by that. Damn, I'm really just throwing shit to the wall right now. I would say I hope the shit sticks, but that'd be a messy cleanup. Kind of like I'm going to have to do for this pod. If I had an editor, I'd be like, hey, I'm going to have to pay you a little extra for this one. You got your work cut out for you. But they say shit sticks. But I say put a stick in my butt. And just hopefully the wood don't chip. Because I'm a chip off the old cheese block. Because I am getting shredded. All right. But any jizz. But yeah. You know, that's the thing. It's, can you really trust someone with, like, if I was a owner of a company, let's just keep it simple. Let's say I owned, I don't know, an Arby's, which, by the way, I would never own an Arby's. Not that there's anything wrong with owning an Arby's. It just seems highly complicated for a fast food restaurant. It's like, honestly, I've never seen roast beef look like Arby's. Roast beef is either insanely thin or insanely thick. They have like this nice proportion where it's like wavy. They got wavy roast. The bitch is wavy. It's like someone said earlier in the video. It's like gravy is just there to add to hug the biscuits. And I was like, yeah, but, you know, it should be white gravy if it's not in the morning. Well, you know, I've given some white gravy at 9 in the morning, if you know what I'm saying. Because I like country buffets, you fucking weirdos. All right. But, you know, if I owned Arby's, and would I trust someone that's on juice? First of all, I've never seen a ripped Arby's employee. I've seen this is weird. I've seen, like, there's certain fast food restaurants that, like, weirdly, some of them will have, like, jacked are like really in shape, like people, like dudes specifically. Like McDonald's will have like the ripped guy, right? Taco Bell, I've never seen a strong, pretty jacked dude at Taco Bell. I can say I've never seen that. Burger King, nah, that's where the sloppiest goes. I'm not saying people. All right. I don't want fit people at fast food. Like, I don't want fit people cooking my food. Fit people will watch your salt intake. It's like, if I want to watch my salt intake, I will cook at home and not put salt. Just put the fucking sodium in the quarter pounder, all right? Lazy asses. It's like you press 2 fucking buttons to put the seasoning on. Oh, by the way, the Taco Bell Dippin' Taco, that was $3.49. Maybe the biggest ripoff of a thing I've ever had. Yeah, they dip in the taco was smaller than a regular taco. It was like, let's get the smallest dry shell, put this cheese grease under it. It comes with beef, but it wasn't even beef. They put chicken. And I read the thing a couple. I was like, nah, I know I didn't order chicken, but cool, whatever. But it gets 2 sauces on the side that you don't quote unquote pay for. And I'm like, first of all, this taco, I couldn't even use half a sauce. Like, that's how much of nothing it was. So what's the point of 2 sauces? So I'm paying an extra $2 because you want to give me 2 sides of sauces that I can't even fucking use on this one item? I don't know. But, not money well spent, I can tell you that. But yeah, no, you know what? If I owned an Arby's and I was in charge of hiring, and this like 24-year-old dude comes in, ripped and jacked like he's a gym bro, I'll be like, hey, man, I got a gym bro on the staff. You know what? That means I got someone that's committed, someone that's willing to put in the work, no days off. The only thing I got to worry about is if he calls out to go to the gym. Because, like, there's the thing is, there's, like, 2 things that can happen. When you start working at, like, a fast food place, Arby's, and you start out in shape, you either stay in shape and then get in even better shape while eating their shitty food, or you just completely lose it all. There's like no in between when it comes to this shit. And, you know, would I trust a guy that's taking Tren, Anavar, MK11? I don't even know the fucking names for a lot of this shit. To slice roast beef, to actually cook meat properly and do all that shit. A person that's just willing to do that. I just don't, there comes a point where, like, I honestly, unless you're competing in your sport that involves taking steroids for muscle and shit like that, like, and recovery, to this day, I really don't understand an everyday person with a regular job taking steroids. And I get, like, the body image thing. But, like, wouldn't people realize, like, a lot of these things that are placed on you in society, like, really don't matter? They are just words. They are just sayings. They are just phrases. It is just peer pressure. But since we're conditioned to be in the peer pressure, or we're going to be deemed a certain way, it all starts in the playground in 7th grade. When it's like, just go ask Brittany out. So you go to the basketball court and you're like, hey, I saw your sister added my brother in her top 8 in Myspace. Let's just say you can come and be in my space tonight after 8. And we can go see what movie was out at that time? A Nightmare on Elm Street. That's weird if you're trying to lure a girl in the 7th grade. While you're in 7th grade, you're both 7th graders. You're both in 7th grade, and you're like, hey. And you're trying to flirt and be like, hey, maybe tonight we can watch a Nightmare on Elm Street. And so I'll always be in your dreams. I had a dream. And you were going to ham, baby. I still remember that girl's name. The first girl I ever asked out. Actually, I didn't even ask her out. I asked her to be my girlfriend, and we never talked before. No, was it 7th grade? No, I think it was like 5th grade. See, your boy was starting at a young age. And then I didn't ask another girl out till I was like 19. Oh, young men trauma. It'll kill you. And after that day, I was like, you know what? The only rejection I'm doing on a basketball court is rejecting your shot at the rim, bitch. Goaltend that, hoe. But no, that's how you know my Riz wasn't on point at that time. But, that's the beauty. I forgot why I even mentioned that story. I don't even know what the fuck I was talking about. But yeah, shout out to Brittany Russell. I literally was like, I remember exactly how it went. I was a young whippersnapper, like 11, 12 years old. And I was just like, hey, if I ask a girl out, they will say yes. Like, that's how I thought it went. So I go up with my oversized jacket with my chubby cheeks, my face. I go to the basketball court with her long hair and bangs over her eyes. And she had no interest in anything, to be honest. And then there was a whole, like, Myspace drama, too, after. She's like, why did you add my sister? And I'm like, I don't know. It said, would you like to add your sister? And I'm like, sure. Add her sister, too. And she's like, well, delete my sister. I'm like, no. I'm not going to delete your sister. She can delete me. I've never even seen her. Her sister was older. Her sister was in my brother's grade. It's like, you're the one that rejected me. Why do you care? It's like you're not in my top 8. She's not in my top 8. So shut the fuck up. And just because she did that shit, out of pettiness, I'm like, you know what? Since she rejected me, I put her sister as number 1. That's how you do it, kids. That's how you show them. Don't Tom and Jerry me. No pun intended. MySpace, get it, Tom. All right. But yeah. But it's that day I learned. I just went up to her and said, will you be my girlfriend? And she just said no. And I turned away and I'm like, all right. I just looked down. It looked like one of those memes where like a sad boy looks down and be like, when the world is lost in your tears. It looked like one of those memes. But you know what? As they say, it builds character. And you know what? I wouldn't have had time to go over there if Freddie would have just fucking let me be the goalie. I want to cover the walls in between the gutters. That's how ratchet our school was. Literally the gutters. The gutters were the goalposts, and we just kicked the ball against the wall as like a soccer, and there would be all-time goalie. But no, I was about to... See, the thing is, like, when you say this Mexican kid named Freddie, it sounds so bad. But really, it's just this kid named Freddie who was Mexican. But if you say, this Mexican Freddie, it's like, no. Because he would always bring his gloves to schools, and he thought he was fucking like Tim Howard out there, protecting Team USA from Brazil, making it to the World Cup. It's like, just fucking, like, you're covering 8 feet of wall. If you allow a goal, you deserve to get scored on. But no, he was always like, no, I'm always like, we all know that fucking guy that's like, always like, I got ball. Like, you do a pickup game, he's like, oh, I'm gonna take the ball up every time. It's like, you got less handles than Captain Hook. All right. Like, look at Captain Hook with his fucking hook could dribble better than you. And you want to fucking sit here and be like, I got necks. It's like, yeah, you got next hands in your face if you keep calling next. If the game ends, you wait for the next 4 people to come in 404. You don't just take someone else up. Hey, man, my mom's got to pick me up at 6. Come on, let me just get one more game. And it's like, well, and I guess your mom's going to pick you up at 6 when you're riding the bench there, Dougie, aren't you? Man, I miss Doug. The show. Yeah. Teach me how to Dougie. Hey. I'm such a fool. Why be a Doug when you could be a thug? And apparently Young Thug, his dad. It's funny how this whole podcast just connects. Young Thug's dad, he had like a protest sign, or he made some posts on social media with the sign that basically said, my son has to sit in prison for the same charges that Donald Trump. It's like, well, I mean, it's not the same exact charges. It's quite different, but it is in the same state. So, you know what? It's kind of similar. And they're being treated different. He's like, justice for Thug. Look, you guys know the Young Thug case, Young Slime life. So no, it's actually not really similar to Trump at all. I'm pretty sure Trump does have like a drug cartel dealing going. He's probably had a few people offed who've done him wrong. But in the weird way, you know what all this Trump stuff is really doing? It's actually like helping his case prove that everything, the quote unquote establishment, all the corruption he has basically said and all that stuff, like they're literally exposing it and how they're dealing with his case. Because that's the thing, and I never knew this, but I guess it makes sense. He's the first president to have a mugshot, which is actually not true. He's the first president, while being a president, to have a mugshot. I mean, George Bush literally had like a crazy, like one of the craziest DUI intoxication, like had like a crazy DUI like in Texas, and he a few other things, getting a bar fight. Like he had mugshots younger, Maybe that's why he always has that face. He got drunk so much, it kind of fucked up his face. Yeah, that's not what you talk about, a dead person. I don't know if he's dead. I don't know. But anyways, but every president has committed crime. It's literally like you're naive if you think that hasn't happened. I mean, literally, Watergate's a crime. But all he had to do was resign, or he got impeached. Nixon did. But what he did was, what took place is literally illegal. Like, beyond illegal. And the result of that was just to resign. For example, I was actually listening to a podcast with Dave Smith, who's like, apparently he's a comedian, but he's actually, he's more of a political, because anytime he's on the show, he's just talking about politics, like in an actual way that's actually digestible and interesting. Like, apparently declaring war, according to the Constitution, declaring war can only be summoned upon by Congress. It cannot be summoned upon by the president. But what they tried to do is like, well, the government doesn't really acknowledge Iraq, Syria, and all these things as war. They acknowledge as, what is it called? Military defense, or military action, or some technical term where it's not war, but it's for military purposes, right? But technically war, the last war that was actually declared upon in the right way was World War II, supposedly. I mean, Obama, apparently he had people literally tortured people, literally killed, sent off drones into America and killed people by doing that stuff. I mean, you go down the list, every president has stuff that's like, they did things that were illegal. So it kind of opens this can of worms. It's like, all of this is just because there were some votes that may have been changed or that were tried to change. And the year that you're looking at is an election that they lost anyways. So we're going to waste millions and tens and hundreds of millions of dollars investigating something, going into something that does not change the result of what happened anyways. It doesn't mean that people shouldn't be punished for the election fraud. But also, let's not be stupid and think election fraud is not normal. Like, election fraud is just, typically is less detectable. And typically no one cares because it's in everyone's best interest when election fraud takes place. Because election fraud is literally designed, quote unquote, to protect America from what everyone in the inner circle thinks is better. And you know what? Maybe they know something. Maybe they really do believe they're doing something to help better. But in reality, I think people only care about this now because it's become more of a spectacle than it is a reality. Like, let's say all these charges happen. I mean, anyone, the main heads, Trump, or anyone that's like kind of close to, like, what? They're going to make it like, oh, you can't run for president. Like, they can't even do that unless he's in jail. Like, he can run for president. There's actually no law where they can make someone not be able to run for president unless you've reached your maximum amount of terms. So, like, even if they were to be like, yep, he's found guilty of this, he has to serve 5 months this, probation, and all this shit, but it doesn't go to jail, like, he can still run for president, but they're trying to do all this to make it where, like, he doesn't become president. I don't know. It just seems like a big waste of time. Everything's a waste of time, you know. But yeah. That's what I find interesting in the world today. Have you ever put your shoes on backwards and realized, man, I got a big toe. A nice camel toe. Imagine if your toe was like, have you ever actually seen a camel's toe? Those things are fucking huge. Oh, well, we don't beat around the bush around here. Nope, just me. I thought, hey, that was actually pretty good. No one beats around. All right. Barbara. Oh, Jesus. Oh, my God. Don't you feel me at your feet? If you rub it, I'll take you to an Asian nail spa where she can give you a nice dry rub. Yeah, so if I own a barbecue place and I literally had a dry rub station where the person's job was just prepping the meat for dinner and stuff like that, and the main occupation was a nice dry rub, is just rubbing the meat, I'm going out and recruiting some of these, let's just say I'm going to go out and recruit some of these massage therapists. Because I know they're going to make sure my restaurant is taken care of. But, hey man, sometimes you gotta seek unorthodox qualities to have your product stand out. Like, what's gonna be the difference between your barbecue place and Dickie's barbecue place? It's like, let's just say we went out and got some unique employees that have a lot of experience in rubbing dry meat, rubbing sticky, rubbing saucy meat, making sure it's cooked and aged to perfection, regardless if it's something that takes 2 hours of smoke or 14 days. We're gonna make sure it's in good hands and ready for takeoff to infinity. And that'll be $45 for half a rack, but it'll be $70 with the coupon we have in place, if you know what I'm saying. I'm sorry, but anytime I see these signs at these massage places, and it's like at 5 o'clock, like there's this random massage place that I see. I'm not going to say where it's at, but it's a name of let's just say the first name is like a name of like what a woman's name would be, massage. And like at 4 or 5 o'clock, that thing is jam-packed. And it's a lot of trucks. It's a lot of dude cars. I'm sure, after a hard days of work, at 4 o'clock, the first thing a man's saying, like, man, I really need to rub out. I really need these tightness in my calves. Get out. When I see that, and it's in a very, area where it's like, this is kind of out of place to have this massage. Like, this should not be next to a Zaxby's, all right? It's next to a Zaxby's and a closed down diner in a Mexican restaurant with a bunch of townhomes behind. Like, it's not in the middle of a, transient city. It's not in the move of a constant going. It's like, this is pretty jam-packed, huh? Unless everyone's here for cryotherapy, but I doubt it. I guess they have to make sure they're full staffed at all times. I would apply, but I don't want to have to find out the hard way, no pun intended, what I would have to partake in. How do those interviews process go when you apply for a place that does those secret, quote unquote, under the table or over the table dealings? Like, is it transparent? Is it just like if you open that place, it's just understood, like, yeah, if you actually want this to be a functional business, I mean, come on, let's be real here. Or is it person by person basis? Like, is it just like you can go up to the front and be like, hey, can I get Stephanie again? She got that Heffany. They'll be like, oh yeah, you want the same twisty toppy turvy special? And be like, yes, the 3 TTTs, T cubed. And they'll be like, sure. Would you like to add, our aloe vera gel for $5? How about I just add that mouth for $100, Alex? Oh, she can give me the wheel of fortune, and then I'll spend it and go bankrupt. I'm such a fool. But, hey man, but men will pay for some shit, man. I actually came across a video on O'Shea Duke Jackson where there's this preacher. Of course, well, he's a pastor, preacher. You know what the fuck I'm talking about. He's, the leader of men in a church, leading a whole commercy, really leading people with faith and showing people right and wrong and making sure you stay on the right path in the name of Jesus. But we all make mistakes, even people in that stature, that close to God, people with that type of strong feeling and can talk to God and relay your message and make you feel like that you're going to have a portion the next year just because you dreamt it. Apparently, a prostitute put him on blast and put him on TikTok. Well, she put him on blast a few times. Apparently, he was meeting up 3 or 4 times a week. And the thing is, it's actually not a she. Well, it's a she, kind of. It's an in-between. Let's just say that. I don't know what the correct term, but you know what I'm saying. It's not a boy. It's not a girl. It's something that would actually kind of fuck up pastor's career. Like, you get caught with a prostitute's girl. You could just say, like, you know what? God, I lost my way to room 138 for the 4th time in the past 3 days. And, oh yeah, by the way, he's married with kids too, all that good stuff. And in the room, he's covering his face because he don't want to be seen. And this person's putting them on blast. Jimmy Neutron style. Putting them on blast because his name, and says his name, where he is, he's the pastor of. And he's like, stop playing me, give me my money. And he's like, I made sure you were satisfied. And I'm like, whoa, hey. In the name of Jesus, sacrifice me the details. But apparently the moral of the story is he was satisfied. 15 minutes for $125. You know the rates. You know the rates. Like it's a friggin' toll pass. Like it's a toll in Florida. You know the rates is a big sign. 50 cents. It's like, damn, I'm doing the math. 15 minutes of 125. That's like $7.50 a minute, I think. This escort, this prostitute, whatever you want to call it, got paid as much in 1 minute as I did at American Eagle for an hour. And I folded clothes. I mean, I opened fitting rooms too, I made sure the floor was clean, but apparently they made sure the floor wasn't. Put him on blast because he didn't want to pay up. It's like, look, man. And it's like Kevin Samuels said, you don't pay for their service, you pay for their silence. And especially, I mean, come on, especially if you're messing with one that's not a girl. But yeah, my camera's about to die. So moral of the story is, pay or get played, or you find out your pastor likes to be played. But yeah, that was episode 216, the Often Be Podcast with Clint Nelson. I'm your host, Clint Nelson. Don't forget to like, follow, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Most important, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to suck some titties. Even if you're a pastor. All titties are created equal, right? But yeah, love don't judge. Because God can only judge those who love everyone anyways. And he would love if you stop capitalizing on his teachings too. All right. That's coming from a man of faith, bitch.